You're listening to Bears Beyond the Gate, a Bristol Bears podcast made by fans for fans, with three friends who love the club, the game and all things Bears. Well, it's been a long time, lads. I think it was a month since we did our last pod, and that was our little interview with Jake Heenan that went down quite well with punters. But obviously this time of year it's a bit difficult for club podders because there aren't any games apart from Prem Cup games, and they haven't got quite the same sort of cachet as the Prem. So I don't know about you fellas, but I've been kind of sat at home watching a bit of the Six Nations and quite enjoying a little bit of a break. But we did feel that because the Prem restarts again on Sunday, we ought to get together again. And of course that was quite difficult, just trying to find a common time. So we're actually recording this on a Thursday night, which is one of the latest times we've ever recorded a pod before a Prem game. So anyway, Miles and Lee on Zoom with me. Are you boys all right? How are you, Lee? You're looking very dapper there.
I am. Unlike you, Pete, I've watched no rugby pretty much at all for the last 3 weeks. As soon as England started getting beaten in the Six Nations, I clocked off. But I do have an excuse. I mean, I am in the process of selling my house and trying to arrange all that. So it's been very busy, mate, but very busy in non-rugby terms. So I am really looking forward to getting back into it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. What about you, Miles? What have you been up to? Are you all right?
Well, yeah, grand. I mean, my weekend started, boys. I'm not working tomorrow, hence I've got a nice little cheek two session IPAs on the desk actually this evening. I'm going large. Yeah, all right. I mean, I've enjoyed the Six Nations. I haven't enjoyed watching England play, but I don't think anyone has. But yeah, no, it's been a good run of games. A little bit odd with no club rugby, as discussed. But yeah, we can dive into that a little bit on the pod in a while.
Yeah, I mean, we did see each other down the gate a couple of times for the Prem Cup games, and actually the last Prem Cup game against Sale was a bit like a Prem game because both teams went full bore, and it was actually quite a good game of rugby, that one. But we may come on to that a little bit later. Well, lads, let's crack on. I mean, I thought what we could do tonight was maybe run through a sort of few news items from the club, a few things that have happened in the last few weeks, have a quick chat about the Prem Cup campaign, and then, of course, think about the game on Sunday afternoon at Welford Road. And actually, I was on Leicester Tigers rugby show last night, BBC Radio Leicester. I had a little 5 to 10 minute slot on with Tom Varndell. Zoomed into the studio.
Did he?
And, yeah. But what I thought I'd do is when we get to that, I've snipped out a little bit of what they thought was going to be what Tigers might do on Sunday, and I thought I'd snip that out and stick it into our pod, and then we can sort of comment on what the Leicester boys how they were thinking about Sunday, and before we decide what our team might be and so on. So let's crack on. So I think the first thing I wanted to touch on was from news from the club were injuries. Let's start with something negative, shall we? And of course, as I'm sure both of you know, and it was widely reported that we suddenly got this news update saying that Pedro Rubiolo had got this ACL out for the rest of the season, or had been operated for an ACL, and then on the back of that, it's like two bad news buses coming at the same time. It then turned out that Joe Batley had dislocated his thumb in that Prem Cup game against Sale and was going to be out till May. And then also the other minor, it was like the third bus, but it wasn't quite as bad, was Rich Lane did a hammy, and we saw that in that Prem Cup game. It was after the first minute, but wasn't quite as bad as they thought. So he's probably going to be out till April. So I don't know. What do you think, boys? Lee, what were your thoughts about that?
Well, my thoughts are exactly why the Prem Cup doesn't mean anything at all to me. I mean, like injuries, we've talked about injuries all season long, haven't we? And I mean, we were doing nothing in the cup anyway. It was a run out, and it's just so disappointing to get. I mean, we're talking like, especially second row, major players out now for us well, don't know how long for Bats, but Rubiolo for the season. And Oh, it's just not the news we needed to hear,
I
was
mean,
it?
I should clarify, it wasn't because he was playing in the Prem Cup. He wasn't
No.
playing. It was
No,
must have been a training accident. Bats,
Yeah.
yes, was in that game. I mean, I suppose Miles, it's risk and reward. I mean, because there aren't any games, clearly Pat did use that Prem Cup game against Sale to give a bit of hit out for the boys to get some running in their legs because with a view on this game coming up at the weekend. So if you didn't play some of these big players, are they going to be fresh for Sunday? So yeah, it's always
well,
a
I
little
mean,
bit risky, isn't it?
yeah, I think so. I mean, that was a fair few weeks ago, and it was a little bit like, you're right, a Prem run out. We had I think, our fittest players, and you would argue first team players playing, as did Sale. Yeah, it's just unfortunate. I think you're right. I mean, Lane has sort of kicked and then he pulled up and he's obviously pulled his hammy and Bats, you could see, was holding his wrist during that game. Really unfortunate. It's not pretty reading. These next two games, we really could have done with fully fit and loaded, first team players. And unfortunately, it's, players will step up, but the engine room is going to take a bit of a testing for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose there is always another side of the coin, and the good side of the coin is the fact that it was announced that we've got a few players back from injury, and just listing them, Stevie Luatua is, as far as I'm aware, is fit. Jake Woolmore is fit again. Lovejoy Chawatama is fit. Noah Howard is fit, and Aidan Boshoff is fit. So,
Mm.
yeah, I mean, it's we have got some players, and I suppose the argument would be is that this is what happened at the beginning of the season, and we managed it quite well, and it's just a case of other players are going to have to step up. So maybe that's what we'll talk about maybe a little bit when we get to chatting about the Leicester game and the lineup. Lee, the other thing that came up news-wise, well, there's a few things, was some contract extensions, and I think there were 6 contract extensions were announced. I'll just run through them. Jake Woolmore got another year or two, and as someone who's
Yeah.
getting on a bit now and 179 appearances, I wonder whether that's a bit of a kind of leadership extension. Like he's a good boy around the
Mm,
camp, good for the younguns. Aidan Boshoff
absolutely.
got an extension. Sam Worsley got an extension. Max Laheath got an extension. Noah Heward and Lovejoy Chawatama. So thoughts on those extensions? Anything comes to mind?
Well, really pleased with all of those. I think that it's really important as well for, players like Worsley. I mean, the reward for the season that they've had. And obviously you've got the old stagers, like you say, Jake. I mean, it's really weird because it only feels like yesterday that Jake Woolmore came into the club, and now we're talking about 179 appearances.
Mm.
It's bonkers, really. And obviously Max Leaf all there again to kind of steady the ship. I think, yeah, for me, all those contracts well deserved and well earned. And we're not just keeping the old guard, but we're actually building the youngsters for the future.
I mean, my only concern with we're talking, that's 3 props that have re-signed. I mean, is that all maybe getting on, early 30s? I mean, Max Laheath's about 32 now, and I think
Mm.
Yeah.
Lovejoy's getting on. Is that either a reflection on the fact that props tend to mature later, or that we haven't really got Prem ready younger ones coming through? What do you think, Miles?
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited that there's been a great deal of signings during the sort of quiet spell. I mean, it's a fair point. We've signed some, we'll come on to talk about some new signings and exciting signings that are coming through. But yeah, maybe it's just that they need mentors, and the likes of Woolmore and Max Laheath, and Lovejoy's been with us a few years now, have got those aged and experienced heads upon them, and they put their bodies on the line week in, week out. It's hard to say whether we haven't got any oven ready academy coming through, but I think those are that's shrewd signings to say the least.
Yeah, and I think giving Sam Worsley and Aidan Boshoff extensions because to be brutally honest, they're probably still quite cheap, aren't they? But potentially could,
Yeah.
Sam Worsley is getting close to being regular Prem standard, and Boshoff has really shown he's got potential. So again, probably some people might say, they're not very exciting. But I think they're quite shrewd because those boys could go from strength to strength, and for a couple more years, we're saving a little bit of money. I don't want it to be all about economics, but I do think it
Mm.
does come into it, doesn't it? Lee, you're going to say something?
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, the balance is it's got to be right in terms of the money, but also I do agree with Miles. I think these guys, these young lads, they're already part of the team that Pat Lam's trying to build for the future. So, these guys are already here. They know the setup, and for me personally, I think those two, especially Worsley and Boshoff, they're going to be players that are going to play a lot more in the first team over the next, couple of years.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I saw Aidan Boshoff play, I think maybe he might even have been his debut on the second game against Saracens when we got humped by Saracens. But he kind of looked good
Mm.
on a bad day, and I think I might have told you this when I after the game I was kind of hanging around by the side of the pitch, and his mum and dad and friends were kind of right next to me, and he came over, and he was kind of pumped, because he'd played most of the game because I think he came on for an injury quite early on, and he was like, "Yeah, did you see me?" And Owen Farrell was trying to pick a fight with me, and I was like, I stood up to it. It was just like it was brilliant listening to like a young
Yeah,
lad, and I was thinking, mate, you don't need to like sound like you're in awe of him. You gave him a run for his money. So yeah, I like from that moment on. I thought that boy's got something about him, and so on. But as Miles alluded to, we've obviously been away, so we've got to
hey,
get a
ding
few
ding.
cliches in. We have had a few signings. Well, I say a few signings. We've had three, as far as I can. Well, maybe four actually. I'll come back to that. But the first signing, in no particular order, was Ethan Stadden, from Bath. Um, he was described as versatile and one of the Prem's most promising young forwards who can play second and back row. But obviously not quite good enough to break into the Bath team. But I do think that's perhaps a little bit unfair because he did play in some of those Prem Cup games, and I actually think again looks like a pretty good signing. Looks like the sort of
Agreed.
player that could do well at Bears. I don't know
Yeah.
if you boys know anything else about him or what you think about that signing, but Lee, you were
Uh,
making some noises there.
yeah, just chatting to a couple of Bath supporters that I know, and they really rate this guy, and I think that he's in all fairness, he's probably going to get more opportunities at Bears, and I think again quite exciting.
I think so. I think it is. Talking of back rows, the other big announcement was that we'd signed Khalik Karim from Worcester
Mm.
Warriors, and then it also now turns out that he's already joined us for the rest of the season, but because he's injured, so we've got him into our medical boys have got him in and are going to sort him out for the start of the season, which I think is a pretty good move, and it's what they did with Pedro Rubiolo, wasn't it, when he came from
Yeah,
Newcastle? And I think
like
Yeah.
deja vu.
why don't we?
Yeah.
It seems sensible to rehabilitate him with our facilities, which I imagine are better than Worcester's. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't really know much about him, so I'm quoting from the Bears website, which of course is totally unbiased. But what it said was he is a fierce ball carrier with a high work rate. What's not to like about that? I mean, it's better saying he's a bit soft and is a bit lazy. You wouldn't say that though, would you? But he's only 6 foot and he's 104 kg, so he's not
Yeah,
a big unit. But he's obviously
yeah.
he's probably maybe a bit of a nasty boy. He's a burrower. Um, and according to Pat was quoted as saying, Khalik is a player with tremendous potential. He possesses outstanding physical attributes, power, athleticism, and presence, but that consistently show in his ability to dominate collisions and influence the game. I mean, mate, I'm surprised he's not playing for England.
It's really weird when Pat talks like that. It just reminds me of you doing one of your parents' evening speech.
Yeah,
It's brilliant. I love it.
And actually, I go on and said I always try and add a little bit for the parents to take away. And Pat's done the same here. He's finished off by saying, "What has impressed me most is his hunger to improve and his determination to take his performance to the next level," which kind of implies he's not very good at the moment, and he's got a long way to go. It's like he's done really well, but a bit of work to do.
Main thing is he's coachable, right?
Coachable, of course he is. We don't sign anyone who's not coachable, apart from Carl Sinclair maybe. But I don't know. Don't say that. He
Let's
was.
not go there.
No, we love him. So anyway, so that's Khalid Kareem, and then one for you, Miles, particularly because it was Toby Wilson, and of course you like the name Toby, don't you? Miles, what's happened to your sound?
Miles has disappeared.
Uh-oh. I'll just say we're having a pause here at the moment because Miles is speaking. His lips are moving, but there's nothing coming out. Can you hear him, Lee?
Can you hear me?
I
Oh,
cannot.
now we can.
Oh, I can hear it now.
Mate,
Okay, right, let's
actually,
go.
to be honest, it was better. It made more sense just now.
Right,
Anyway,
go.
I'm going to have to now. You're not forcing me to do loads of
Right,
editing.
tell me about the. Go on,
So-
go again on.
What I was going to say was, let's start again. So that's Khalid Kareem, but one for you, Miles, a name that is quite close to your heart, as if people who know you quite well, Toby Wilson, 21 from Ealing Trailfinders, and as it said on the Bears website, one of the most dangerous backs in the second tier. So yeah, I mean.
Okay.
it
Well,
sounds
why
good.
haven't we signed the most dangerous
Yeah.
back in the second tier? I wonder.
I know.
But there
I
you
mean,
go.
let's just say what Pat was on a roll as well, because he was
He
obviously
was.
doing. And he said, "I'll do the quote, and then you can comment on it."
Go on. Read what Pat said in the auto cue.
He
Go
said,
for it.
"Toby is an exciting young player who has consistently delivered high-level performances at fullback in the Championship." I mean, it goes on. This is like an essay. "I've been particularly impressed by his fearless mindset and the way that he combines pace, skill, and game awareness. He has a real ability to influence matches, whether through his finishing, his impact in broken play, or his willingness to take the game on and create opportunities. We're delighted he's chosen to join us at the Bears. We both believe this move will provide the right environment for him to continue developing, push his game to the next level, and fulfill his potential." There is a number of triplicates in there. Like, they always
There
say
is.
with speeches, you always have three in your list. He's like got
Yeah.
3 sets of 3 there. Brilliant stuff. It's like it's been written by Cicero in the Greek Parliament back in the day.
And I love how you emphasize the superlatives as well, Pete.
Oh,
Do it
love it, love
brilliantly,
it.
mate.
Anyway, Miles, after that long essay, anything you want to say about Toby Wilson?
I mean, there is nothing more that anyone can possibly add about it. I mean, you're right. The superlatives, the description, exquisite from Pat Lamb, I must say. I mean, yeah, how can you not be excited? I think we've seen he's real. He's one of the most great performers and point scorers in the Championship. Ealing, as we know, consistently finished top of the pile year after year, and you need a good fullback to do that. So yeah, that is exciting. I guess it opens the door to a few questions as to maybe which fullback we may potentially be losing at the end of the season. And in time, I guess time will tell. We will find out.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's been some hints that Benjamin Elizalde may be off to France.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's probably the one, isn't it?
Well, wait a minute. Miles was giving you the suspense. Then you've just
ruined it
for us.
I thought it was sorry.
It was a generic open question for listeners. We knew the answer.
Well, the listeners are all shouting Benjamin Elizalde. They want answers. They don't want like cryptic crosswords, do they? I mean, here to deliver straight collision, ball carrying, break the line. None of this poncing around, kicking it for contest. Just one other thing, and I tried to look this up and then I forgot about it. I had this feeling that we signed a hooker from Chiefs as well. But am I completely going mad? Someone might tell us that. Just got this feeling.
I thought that we've obviously, Sam Wolstenholme is going to
Go the
Chiefs.
other
I
way.
thought you're right. I thought we did have
Someone will tell
someone
us.
that coming from Chiefs. Someone will know.
Someone. I think
Professional.
Debs from K-Town will probably tell us that. So my one question after all these signings is that sounds great, and there's does like joking aside, we've got a great track record, as Pat says, in turning kind of championship players into Prem players, and we could list many of those. But my one big question is, are we really do we actually want one big signing as well? Do we need a big signing? That's the one slight worry. We haven't, last year we had Tom Jordan, and we had
Reece
Riviera
Samet.
kind of signing, and
Reece
Reece
Samet, yeah, well, that came
through
late, didn't it? Yeah,
Do
sure.
you think we're going to get a big signing? And I put on our little notes that I sent you, another fly half, maybe another enforcer, or a big ball carrier. So, what do you think? Do you think we're going to see another signing, or do you think that's it for us?
Um,
Miles.
well, it still concerns me, and it probably does you and many listeners and fans of Bristol Bears, that with good old Adge, AJ McGinty, really, I suspect
Oh, he's
maybe
gone.
his
He won't
last,
be. That'll
maybe
be his
last
last
season. We
season.
won't be seeing him.
No.
And still, Tom Jordan been playing not at number 10 consistently for Scotland. That we haven't got an out and out world class international number 10, and that still deeply concerns me. As well as Tom Jordan has been playing, but to be moved from position from club rugby to international rugby is far from ideal. I mean, they're not doing it with Finn Russell. I know, poor example. That is my deep concern. I'm afraid that's where I've always been looking for an out-and-out signing, number 10.
And there's no disrespect to Sam Worsley, but we need to. He will be a fantastic player, but I just think. The truism is if you're going to win anything, you have to have quality halfbacks. And that's my worry. So what do you think, Lee?
Well, I guess, I mean, I do totally agree with you and Miles, but I do wonder if we're kind of back in the Tom Jordan horse for next season. Because, I mean, let's face it, I mean, he wants to play 10 and is almost like his versatility has been gone against him almost in a lot of ways. So I think if we're going down that road, I think we back him as our number 10, our number one, number 10, and I think we go with it. But there is jeopardy with it. I totally agree.
Yeah, I think it's we don't want it to turn into a kind of Yohan Lloyd thing again, do we? Where we're not quite sure.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he's like an international Yohan Lloyd. He has played centre for Scotland. He's played fullback. He's played 10 for us. He's played fullback for us. But it's we'll see. But I think I wouldn't be surprised to think that in the old fanosphere out there'll be a few people thinking, yeah, this is all great. These 3 signings, young lads with got potential, but can we not just one biggie? And of course, it will the whole Damien McKenzie thing will raise its head again. And of course, that will never happen, really. But it's always nice to sort of have your annual Damien McKenzie thought, isn't it?
I think you're right. But and actually, through the joy of Google, I can confirm, Pete, who we had forgotten. Louis Sinclair, fly half from Pirates, and Sol Moody, hooker from Pirates.
Oh no, it wasn't Chiefs; it was Pirates.
So there we are.
Yeah,
that's right.
I knew I was kind of halfway there.
I mean, we signed a lot of championship players. We? But this is, they're all youngsters, 23 and 21 and 21. That's it.
And I think the argument is that get them. I mean, before other clubs get them. I mean, they are clearly the better ones, and we have got a blend academy as well as coachable championship players, and as you say, we can't argue that it hasn't worked quite well so far this season for us. So I think fair play.
Yes, I mean that's true, but it's still a big leap of faith. Going from relying on these youngsters to actually winning silverware, and I guess only time will tell if that leap is too big or whether these boys are good enough to step up. But we're going to need them to step up straight away for next season.
Okay, boys. Well, that's the signings and extensions and all that sort of stuff done. But let's move on to a few other news items that have come up in the last couple of weeks. First off, it was announced quite recently that the lower and middle tiers have now been sold out for the big day out, which of course is a week on Saturday. And I did a little bit of maths, did a little bit of Googling, bit of research, and found out what the capacity was. And essentially it means it's about 40,000 tickets sold, with still 10 days or so to go. So Miles, come to you first. What's your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's encouraging. If your maths is correct, Pete, which I never doubt it as a geography teacher, I suspect we won't reach the dizzy heights of 55,000 last year because, in essence, it's not a local derby, and Quins fans have got to make the effort to come down from London, etc. But yeah, it's encouraging. I think to fill the lower and the upper tier, we'll create a great environment because we'll be, surrounded by Bristol and Harlequins fans. So not a bad shout, but I guess time will tell. It's only a couple of weeks away, unless people are sitting
Less
on
than
the
a couple of
fence.
weeks, Miles.
Well, you're all right. We're not this weekend. Well, 2 weekends, isn't it?
Yeah,
That'll do.
it's two couple of weeks is 14 days in my book. We're
Oh, here
talking
we go.
we're Thursday tonight,
Halves,
Friday. We're
quarters of
talking 8
games.
days away.
All right. 2 weekends
Tomato,
away.
tomato.
Exactly. Two
no,
weekends
boys.
of rugby away.
It's attention to detail. That's what it is. And
Okay.
detail is everything. It's like saying, we might kick it, maybe, or maybe we'll play, maybe we'll have a vague defensive structure.
Why didn't we just give the date? That would have been easier, wouldn't it?
Yeah, 28th of
Saturday,
March.
the 28th of March.
Sunday, the 28th. What are you talking about? You'll have missed it if you get on the Sunday. It's Saturday. You're going skiing.
I'm going on holiday the next day. My thoughts are on that. I'm super excited. It'll be hopefully a great day out again. A little bit colder time of the year, of course, but.
Not if it was today. It was 18 degrees today, wasn't it?
I think 40,000 fans can certainly make a bit of noise. I'd be disappointed if the roof was shut, but that seems a given now, sadly, with the Millennium Stadium and the Principality. As per the Six Nations, and it's just a great shame.
I mean, I think 40,000 is still a lot of people when you think that. And let's not get into the debate about the whys and wherefores because it's happening. But 26,000 is the capacity at Ashton Gate, which we only ever get with a Bath game. So we're likely to get that this season with the Bath game, hopefully at the end of the season. 40,000 is a good old number. And actually, as we did ask Tom Tatum directly at the beginning of the season, that did they make money out of it? And he categorically said they did, and that's got to be part of it as well. So I think they've done pretty well to get up to 40,000, and there'll be a lot of people with blue light cards there.
Me included.
Yeah, me included as well. I didn't need it because I was a season ticket holder. But so I'm looking forward to it as well. It's going to be a big day, but we'll hopefully we'll be perhaps previewing that next week before we go to it. So second thing I wanted to talk about was Bears women. We haven't really talked much about them this season, and partly because it hasn't quite fitted into what we've been doing, and partly because they've not had a very good season at all. And I don't want to make us sound like sort of glory hunters that we were only interested when they were winning. We're not, but it has been a bit of a difficult season, but
transitional
with new coaches. Probably a hangover from the World Cup. New players getting injured. We had quite a lot of injuries, but I think that I don't know in what particular order it was, but the last 4 games since they came back to start again, there was a 26-all draw with Ealing. They lost 36-33 to Sarries, which is no bad result, to be fair. They beat Loughborough 24-21, came back in the second half, and then they humped Tigers 68-0 on last weekend. So, the girls, I think I looked at the table. I thought, is there any chance they could make playoffs? But I don't think there is at all. So I think they're probably
I don't think so.
Transitional and then come back strong next year. And it does look like the women's PWR does need some more competition. It looks like Hartbury are pretty much sort of running away with it, and that's not necessarily a good thing. They do need a bit more competition.
I think
Saris are
you're
doing all
right.
right, but
Yeah,
really it's everyone else, isn't it, below that? And
I
Sale and
think so.
Exeter are
Yeah,
quite
yeah.
good. So we'll see. But anyway, up the girls, and obviously double header at Cardiff. So
Hmm.
big game for them. And then the final kind of bit of news, which obviously it's been well reported. It's very, very sad news, was the passing of Matt Salter, obviously previous captain of Bears, and captain for 4 years from 2004 when Bristol were at the Mem, in that kind of that big era. And what I would say, like a proper rugby player, a blindside flanker, no
Yeah,
nonsense, leader on the pitch. Clearly, by the sounds of it, leader off the pitch afterwards. He was director of rugby at Clifton College, but also head coach at Clifton Rugby. I mean, a terribly sort of shocking bit of news, only 49. Lots of fantastic memorials to him. But I don't know about you boys, but I mean, that was really the early 2000s was when I kind of went up to the Mem quite a lot with my missus before we had kids, and used to go and watch Bristol a lot up the Mem on a Sunday, and that was my sort of time of first starting to watch Bristol, having come to Bristol in sort of the year 2000 to do my teacher training, and I still remember those days fondly, and he was a big part of that. So it's terribly sad. I don't know if you boys have got any extra thoughts to add.
yeah. I just want to. I mean, you just spoken about Matt sort of the professional sportsman, the Bristol legend, but a really what we're not saying, what we're not getting through is the human being, a really genuinely lovely guy that I think anyone that met him really would always have lovely words to say for him.
Yeah.
And it was a real shock because I remember I saw him at the gate, and it was only a few games back,
Mm.
and he looked fit as a fiddle.
Mm.
It was really shocking when we heard the news. Um, and I mean, we should say, Clifton Rugby has posted out there's a memorial service to celebrate Matt's life, and it's on Thursday, the 16th of April at 1 p.m. So yeah, I mean, all welcome to attend, and the funeral will obviously be held privately. So yeah, really, really shocking news. I mean, like 49 is no age, is it?
No,
No, not at all.
and I think there's also a kind of memorial game, 21st of this Saturday,
Yeah, I think
Dings
so.
against Clifton as
Yeah,
well. So yeah, I mean, it's as we said, it's one of those sort of bits of news that makes everything else sort of pale into insignificance a little bit. Okay. So moving on to the list, boys. The other thing I just wanted to have a brief chat about was the Prem Cup campaign. Not so much in terms of what the games were like. I mean, ultimately we didn't win any, so
No.
that wasn't much good. I think we finished, we won six or lost 6-1-1 or something like that. So it was clearly it was a
More
development
negatives than
process.
positives,
Yeah,
but
but I
yeah,
think
yeah.
let's focus on the negatives where we lost all of them. But I mean, I thought there were some positives, and of course, the whole point of the Prem Cup, in some ways, is that it's a testing ground for academy boys and injured
yeah,
players coming
Mm.
back, and and I think some teams play it like that, some don't, and I think at least we were a bit honest that when we put our biggest team out, it was when we had no chance of going through, and it was a Nordic sale, to be fair. So we kind of both used it as a bit
Yeah,
of
yeah.
as we said, a hit out for the players. But I'll just read out a couple of things that I thought and see what you think. So I thought first off, the positive were that it gave a lot of game time for some players that we're really going to need in the run in. So I'm talking of Dunny, obviously Owen, George Taylor, who's come through, who's kind of the next cab in the rank, I think, from the Dunn John Owen, Joe Owen queue. Had a couple of really good
Mm.
games, and then of course Gabs Ibitoy played quite a few of them. looked a bit rusty to start with, but now as perhaps is now match fit. So I think that was a real positive that he got a load of game time. And then Jack Bates played a lot of them as well, and I think he got injured in the last one, and I'm not sure how bad that was. But we still need people like Batesy who maybe will we need our full squad for the run in, because anything can happen, and he's a
Yeah, sure.
class player. And then I think from a sort of academy point of view, ones that stuck in my head, and I apologise to people I might miss, but Thomas Gwilliam, academy hooker, I thought I quite impressed with him. Looked like a decent operator. Paddy Pearce, and then your mate Victor Parsnip.
Victor
Miles.
Victor Worsnip.
Yeah, and of course Victor Worsnip went on to play for England under 20s as well, and so he's a definite one for the future. And of course, the last game against Sale we've mentioned already was actually an enjoyable game. We scored some great tries, but our defence wasn't very good. And I think even Pat was kind of had to say that it was a bit of a wake up call. That I think every time Sale pumped our line, they scored, and we had quite a good team out as well. So I suppose it gave the coaches something to focus on. So I don't know. Is there anything else that we, apart from Bats getting injured and possibly Lena and Batesy maybe, which were pretty negative? Is there anything else? Any comments on the Prem Cup campaign? Was it quite nice to have that during the Six Nations, do you think?
Well, there was nothing else to do, to be quite frank with you. I mean, I think that the interim games early on in the Prem Cup, where we could have had a chance to sort of progress, were a little bit disappointing, but we came up against some good sides, and it's a great test for the youngsters. Yeah, later on, I mean, it's a necessity. It's this, like I said, this odd season, we've got to get game time. I mean, some other teams had behind closed doors friendlies, didn't they, organised, and that's all we had. That sort of hit out against Sale, and there were some positives and unfortunately some injury negatives, but it's needed in some shape or form for sure.
I won't ask you, Lee, because you categorically said right at the beginning of the pod that you didn't watch any of them or have any interest. So I'm not even going to ask you for your thoughts.
I mean, I know. It's all I see is just it's a run out. It's not a competition. It doesn't excite me. I don't ever feel that we ever kind of go for it as such. Do you know what I mean? And but like you say, the positives are we get introduced to new young players, and players coming back from injury need fitness, and I think it serves its purpose for in that respect.
Okay, well let's move on to our sort of final item on the agenda, which is obviously the Prem restarts on Sunday. We've possibly got one of the more difficult first games back in the run-in that we've had in previous years. I don't know about you, but
there's no possibly about it, mate.
No. An away game at Leicester Tigers, despite the fact that historically speaking, the last two times at
Welford Road,
we've
actually won. And I mean, last year we hammered them, and that was the one. Do you remember that was the one that got Gabs Ibitoye? We broke from our 22, and Gabs Ibitoye lobbed one like basketball to Rich Lane. We kind of juggled it and ran. So we actually hammered them. And then the year before, because I looked it up, was when we were kind of losing, and then Max Laheath scored a brace of pushover sort of tries. And,
that's right.
We nicked it. And so we've, let's look at historically, it's been quite a happy hunting ground for us in the last. And of course, there was also a Foa Gate back in the day, which we always love to remember. And the Tigers fans love talking about that.
They do.
But history's only one factor, isn't it? And I think the biggest factor this weekend, unfortunately, is that it turns out that we're going to be resting Lewis Rees-Zammit, Ellis Genge and Tom Jordan, as might have been expected. But it turns out that they're not going to be resting Joe Hayes, Ollie Chesham or Nicky Smith. And I think Leicester are thinking about resting them for possibly the Bordeaux game, because they don't because they probably don't think that they've got much chance of it. Just before we talk about our thoughts on what our team might be like and how we might approach it, I did mention at the beginning of the pod that I was on the Leicester Tigers rugby show. And obviously after I said my little bit, then the other two pundits just talked a little bit about what they thought Tigers were how they would approach the game. So I thought that it would be quite nice just to snip in a little bit of that audio from last night. So if we have a quick listen now, then perhaps we can have a quick comment on it afterwards.
Ian, how are you feeling about this game?
Well, I'm always beware of a Bristol fan trying to push over the favourites tag onto Leicester, but look, Leicester are on a high at the moment. There are going to be some interesting selection calls because the team that's played in the Prem Cup, the backup team, the squad strength has been remarkable and has developed through the season. And, there are going to be some questions in terms of who gets the nod. Chesham starting makes things a lot stronger, frankly. I mean, that's a given, because it means that Liebenberg can then go back into the back row. You look at the players that Leicester have got to come back in, and honestly, I'm probably feeling relatively okay, but Bristol are terribly difficult to beat. They are a very good side. And I think it's quite interesting because I think if you look at the two sides, and we've talked about the way in which Bristol have been a little bit more pragmatic this season, you'll also see that Leicester have been a bit more exciting this season, or quite a bit more exciting, or have developed that as it goes along. So the teams are actually almost coming back together a little bit in terms of style, and I think that's going to be fascinating to see. And, Pete's right. I think that there is a degree of motivation for the players in terms of the results at Welford Road against Bristol that will mean that there's certainly no complacency. So how do I feel? I'm really looking forward to the game, and I'm hoping for a Leicester win, but I'm never confident against Bristol because they are a really good side, proper rugby club that plays tremendous rugby.
Okay, there you go, boys. Well, they were pretty chipper. I think, despite the fact they're always a little bit wary of Bristol, and rightly so, because they don't always have it their own way at Welford Road. I think they are quietly confident for Sunday, mainly because they won the Prem Cup quite easily this Sunday, and I think a lot of their squad players are in a lot of form. And of course, the news that Chesham, Hayes, and Lewis, Nicky Smith are going to be playing kind of really gives them a little bit of a physical edge. So I think they were quite there. Well, they weren't just quietly confident. I think they're pretty confident for Sunday. But Lee, you may have a different viewpoint on this.
Yeah, I do. I do totally. I think that it's a false sense of security that they've got. I think I like their kind of confidence, but I do feel like let's face it, that Prem Cup final, Baxter rested so many players for Chiefs. Not rested, but he played a lot of the youngsters because he's played them all the way through the tournament, right? So, Leicester were the stronger team in that final. And, it wasn't really much of a final, was it? Let's face it. It was a bit of a battering. And I just feel that, I know they're playing the big boys. I know that, we've got the players, our big boys that you've mentioned out. But this is back to the Premiership again. You know what I mean? It's all that confidence. I don't really see it personally. I think we'll go up there, and I think we'll win the game.
Good lad. I mean, one thing I was going to say to you, Miles, is that I've been quite impressed in a way with Jeff Parling actually at Leicester, and I think he has quietly changed them into a potential title-winning side. And ironically, it's almost our styles have converged a little bit. That Leicester traditionally we think are, heavy kicking game, heavy physicality, but he has actually added a little bit of attacking edge to them, which is what the guy said last night. And ironically, Bristol has probably become a slightly more pragmatic side and has used its forwards to get where we are as well as a platform. So it could either be a really good game, or it could be a game where we kind of nullify each other and it could be a bit scrappy. You kind of feel that after the Six Nations that there are going to be errors, and that might play to our favour. Who knows? I don't know. What do you think, Miles?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I didn't watch the Prem Cup game last week, and it's great to hear that Lee suggested that it was a little bit one-sided because of team choice. I mean, if you looked at that result, I was deeply concerned about going to Welford Road this Sunday, thinking we're going to get a shellacking, because Leicester are on form. They have great confidence. They will have confidence after last weekend for sure. And lo and behold, one of the ex-Bristol players, one of the standout number 10s of the season, happens to be Billy Searle, who's not missing a thing at the moment and is basically commanding his back line really, really well. So we've got to control him for sure. And it may be that those big England boys are on the bench, and they come on as and when needed. But, they won't have trained with the club for more than half a week, and will be slightly disjointed. But let's no doubt it's going to be an extremely, extremely tough game to go up and get a win on Sunday. And I was sort of happy, slate me if you will, if we even get close to them and just come away with some points.
Yeah, and I mean, I think one of the things that we've done really well since the early loss to Saracens and Bath, which was, it's not an easy to play either of those teams away, is that we've really dug deep and we've won a lot of the closer games and showed some real grit and some real graft.
Yeah.
And I think that'll be the kind of message I imagine that they'll be talking about in this week, is that it's about getting it's about putting your body on the line. It's about getting stuck in. It's about getting up again and getting into that ruck. And I bet Dunny's been practicing hitting rucks left, right, and centre, because as he said to us the end of last season, that's his job. Hit a ruck. He's not interested in offloading. It's hit a ruck, get up, hit another ruck, get up. So yeah, maybe it's going to be a big contest. Lee, you're going to add something to that, I think.
Yeah, the thing that probably gives me more confidence again is our defence this season has been brilliant.
Mm.
And I just feel like, I don't know, I feel like I don't have any, like Welford Road, don't get me wrong, it's a tough place to go. We all know that. It's very difficult to win there, but we've done it the last 2 seasons. And I feel that, we're talking about them a little bit more than we're not picking ourselves up. I just feel that, for me personally, I think if we are on our A game, that's a game we can win.
No, I think that's fair enough, and I think is and well done for chiding us for being so negative.
Exactly, yeah.
Someone's got to do. So, I mean, I think all that's left to say is maybe we could have a little shot at what our starting 15 might be and what our 23 is. Now that we know for sure that Genji, Lewis Rees-Zammit and Tom Jordan are definitely not going to be there. So, I mean, it's difficult for them because normally your go-to place for a holiday is Dubai, isn't it, for rugby players and football players? And that's obviously out of the equation. So I wonder where they go. I'm thinking it might be Cancun would be or maybe that's a bit too far for a week. I don't know.
Oh, just
a little bit.
Canaries, only a 4-hour flight.
I'd say probably Canaries. Yeah, maybe Canaries, maybe the Azores, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah,
but anyway, let's not dwell on that. Let's think about it. I don't know. Does anyone want to have a quick go? I think I did share with you my thoughts on what I thought the starting one would be. So maybe I'll just read it out and then you can tell me what I was wrong.
Yeah, I actually probably thought that the team that you put out, Pete, was pretty much what I would have said as well.
So I sort of said one, Lou said Woolmore or Graham Slaw maybe. Ogray obviously at 2. Hooker, and then George Klosker at 3 after we should have mentioned playing for England A and getting man of the match, I think it was. And then to me, it's Dunny and Owen. It's the Bristolian axis, bit of grunt, bit of graft, and a bit of style. And then back row picks itself. I'd say big Bill Matter, because obviously you can't call him anything but Big Bill Matter. He's not Bill Matter, he's Big Bill Matter at number 8. Santi at 6 and Fitz at 7, but kind of interchanging those boys as they have done all season. I mean, that's our best combination at the moment. And then it's either going to be Rands or Marmion. It's going to be, one's going to be on the bench, one's going to be playing. I imagine Pat will start with Rands, seeing as he probably, because he played England A, probably got a nose ahead. But what a guy to come off the bench. A lot of people out there will be arguing that Marmion's done enough to start. given what he's done this season. And then obviously now it's probably going to be Worsley, isn't it? And
Yeah.
and then you've got Jimmy and BVR in the centres, Ibitoy on one wing, Rivovo on the other, I would say, and then probably
Yeah.
Noah Heward, I would have thought, unless and as at fullback, and then we're talking. I would imagine either Lahif or Chawatama would be tight head cover, possibly starting. To be fair with Kloska, but that one of those would be tight head. Thacks obviously covering hooker. And then Stevie Luatua has got to be on that bench to come on potentially. Maybe even starts. I don't know. Maybe if we need to shore it up a bit, Stevie comes on. Possibly a George Taylor or a Benjamin Grondona. George Taylor can play back row as well, so we might need a bit of cover there. Stevie obviously can, so I don't know. And then, I'd actually put Jordan Worsley, so I'm not sure who might be there. So I was thinking that what I forgot about. I forgot about Mateus Moroni. He's still with us. He's got to be
still with us.
I would have thought he's going to be on the bench, isn't he?
Well, you need his
He'll be on the
experience.
bench.
Yeah, I think so. Because then Jimmy could step into 10. I don't think they'll have a 10 cover.
No, this is it. I think Jimmy will step into 10 because he did in that Prem Cup game, didn't he? So and then
Mateus,
I can't. It depends who else. If Aidan Boshoff's fit, he might get back on the bench again. Who knows? We'll find out. But I think we'll have a good. I mean, I think it's going to be a good looking team. It is a real shame about Pedro, but that's Dunny's job now, isn't it? And Dunny's got. Dunny knows that. He's quoted that he's going to give it his all and he wants to leave the club on a high, having won us the Premiership. He said that, didn't he? He said he wants to win the Prem for us. And Dunny, you got to do it for us, fella, not just for you, just for us and for all the fans. So, and Dunny, I reckon Dunny's going to come out. He's going to come out like a madman. And he's got the red scrum cap on again, we noticed, because he did go away from the red scrum cap a little bit. And I've noticed in that Prem Cup campaign, he put it back on again. I think that's his super strength, the red scrum cap. Yeah. So, boys, I mean, I don't know. Is there anything else we can say, really? The team will be announced probably tomorrow, won't it? So it'll be quite a short
Sunday game. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. So it's odd, isn't it? Tricky for us three. In fact, we're not travelling up to Leicester on a Sunday afternoon. We'll be just watching it on the old telly box, which is a shame. But there you go.
Right, well, I had one AOB to finish off. It wasn't really a goat, and it was a kind of goat. And I don't know about you boys, but I've been listening. I'm quite an avid listener to Rugby Union Weekly, the BBC 5 Live pod, and they've had loads of them in the Six Nations. And one of the one they do is the Nations pod, where Chris Jones, who has obviously once been on our pod way back in the day, he chats to the Scottish rugby guy, Tom English, who's actually Irish and has got an English surname, and Gareth Rhys-Owen, who's the Welsh guy. And it's a great, I love it. They're really, really good chat about Scotland, Wales, England. But anyway, it turned out that Tom English has got, was banging on about Gregor Brown, was one of his big fans. And, he's a big fan of Gregor Brown, the Scottish player. Anyway, but went on about it so much that somebody wrote in with a poem about Gregor Brown, and they were making this big thing about how listeners had written poems for Tom English. And I was thinking, mate, this is old news. Poems in rugby. We've been doing this for about 3 years. And they were like making it out as if it was the greatest thing on earth, that fans would be writing poetry about rugby players. I almost emailed in and said, mate, you are way behind the curve. You haven't got the Hambleys. You haven't got JP Holden.
No.
You haven't got Deb from K-Town.
They've got no laureates writing in or phoning in, have they?
Laureates. So, I mean, it was a kind of, it made me smile, to be fair, but it also was a little bit annoyed that, that we've done that. And they were like, and then they get one guy. It was quite good, to be fair, but it wasn't acrostics. Or limericks. It was more complicated kind of poem.
Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Our listeners, I'm pretty sure the Hambleys and all the aforementioned listeners could absolutely step up to that level, of pure poetry. They've got it in them. It's there, it's in the blood.
Exactly. So that was just something that made me smile. And maybe I should. I've still got Chris Jones's email address. Actually, maybe I should email him and just say, "Here's a response to your poem. Here's about 100 that we've had in the
Yeah.
last 2 years, and you can read
Do
them
it.
through." But anyway, boys, I don't know if you've got anything else to say. I can't think of anything else.
Yeah, I want to go to bed.
Yeah, I think it's time.
Am I allowed now?
Yeah. Well, it's good. I mean, as I say, this is quite a late one. Games on Sunday. We're recording this Thursday. Hopefully, it'll be out Friday morning. So not a lot of time to listen. So I hope people enjoy a little bit. And then obviously after this weekend, we're looking forward to the big day out. So everybody, I'd say you normally say have a good week, but it's like have a good day or two. Stay
My
safe.
week's done.
Stay safe. Yeah, don't get sunburnt. And 1, 2, 3. Up the Bears!
Up the Bears!
Bears.